I'm gonna start very soon. I'm gonna start soon. But before, I was asked by an artist to recap what I will do, just so that I don't forget anything. I'm sitting here. I don't know why nobody's sitting next to me. The first thing I will do is probably walk down to the front so that I can see people. Usually I will not see many people. So today I will be surprised by how many people there are in the room. I don't have a very good memory, so I will use the computer and show some images and sound to remember what I have to say. I will first say how nice it is to be here, and I will also say hello to the audience, but I will also say hello to the readers, just in case this gets transcribed and put into a magazine. You never know. I will then say that this was an instruction from an artist called Yair Barelli. Then I will show a poster which has been designed by an artist. Somehow it's a little bit funny because artists don't really design their art. I don't know if that's a verb, actually. Then I will show a drawing which you will not laugh at because you're not Americans, and I will make a remark of that. Then I will play some music as an introduction, as if this is a wrestling match, which is a bit silly now that I just say that. Then I will say that I thought giving a talk was like a concert, but how wrong was I? However, there are some evidence in the past that a lecture can also be a little bit entertaining, so I will show that. Then I will tell you what my job description is. Although I realize that now it's written on top of this slide up on the top left. Then I will talk to you about people who are very, very inspiring. And I will also say that it's a bit cheating to talk about people who are inspiring because they have done quite amazing things, and I am hiding behind other people's accomplishment. Then I will ask you to take your phones out and set the alarm on maximum level for an amount of time which I will have decided by then, looking at how bored or excited you are. I hope you will be excited. Then I will say that before we start, an event has never happened if we don't document it, so that we will have to document it. I will take a picture of you. I hope you will be smiling. Then before starting, I will do a FAQ, which is a frequently asked question. I'm sure you know this. So that we get rid of all the questions that are always coming back right at the beginning. Then, as Evelyn said, as we are a collective, I will show you a portrait of the four of us because it's a little bit unfair that it's only me that you see. Then I will continue talking, but the phones will ring and I will not be able to finish what I was saying. I found a glove.
Thank you.
I'll try to discreetly reach the front. I will try to take another voice. No, I don't know how to do this. The man who asked me to do what I just did is someone with whom we did this. But I cannot talk about this tonight. I always forget to thank people. Thank you very much, Evelyn and Z33. And thank you very much, you, for being here, because it's the first time. I was going to say it's full, but there are some empty seats here in the front. Thank you anyway. Reichen Gander is another artist who I have asked to contribute to this talk by designing the poster for it. He designed this one, which I can only show in this direction, because if I show it in the other direction, it looks like a landscape poster. I think he did it on purpose to have the text so small that even on this screen you can't even read it. So, I show you what it says. The times that I have used this poster, nobody mentioned that they came because of the poster. Reichen Gander is someone with whom we have done this, but I cannot talk about this today. A few of you are Americans, perhaps. It doesn't really work in Europe, I have noticed. So I know that 5 to 6 people have been to America already. This was composed by a band called Autocrats, and they used to be on the record label that we started over 10 years ago. This is one of the records list, but I cannot talk about this tonight. However, I can talk about the fact that when I was perhaps some of yours age, I was very much into Metallica, and I was fortunate once to see them in concert. Cost a lot of money, and before they started, they played a Sergio Leone track, Gold's Fool, and I thought, but that's amazing, isn't it? They don't even play their own music in the beginning. This is not the concert I was talking about. I found it on Google. But I just wanted to illustrate what I thought giving a lecture would be. Freshly graduated after 2 years, I gave my first talk, or we gave, the 4 of us, because we didn't know how to choose which one would give the talk. And I think we all had pretty much this idea. But you all know that the reality is a little bit like this. This is quite an important image. maybe in the future. Yes, one of you recognized her. Carrie Bradshaw from the Sex and the City TV series is typing on her computer. Yes. Carrie Bradshaw from the series Sex and the City is about to close or has just opened her Macintosh. Between those two images, it's only 2 seasons, which in European terms mean 2 years. You may have noticed that the logo has operated a rotation. Now, what I'm trying to say is that before the logo was talking to us, and now the logo was talking to others, which meant that the idea of a lecture or the laptop concert was perhaps big enough for a company like Apple to reconsider the placing of their logo.
That time could also not be laid at Iraq store. This is March.
The fact that I'm silencing Chomsky here is not signifying that I am against what he says. On the contrary, I just want to show that this is a little movie that I took in my home of a DVD, which is just of a talk or a lecture. It's quite a lot of people, a little bit more than here, but with a good framing, I think it could work. I mean, it's Chomsky. Then, so in the same living room, but not at the same time, I was watching the Inconvenient Truth, which, of course, is the movie, but has always, or has started and has continued as being a series of talks and tours around America and elsewhere by Mr. Gore. This one. Well, it's true, there is the editing, it's very fast, a little bit MTV-esque and the music, but it's pretty close to how a lecture can be rock and roll. But of course, these people are not me or us as a collective. And I have to say, I'm a little bit manipulating you in thinking that I am a little bit like them by showing you those images. So Chomsky, Gore, Zizek, Åbäke in the same list. The reality is that we're none of these people, of course. We're not that important. But what we are has also been depicted in the movies.
I'm 80.
You like working there?
Sure. I get a discount. There's a whole section of books in my area.
What area is that?
Graphic design. I do letterheads and logotypes at night, and the store's a day job till I get enough going.
What do you do that for?
A restaurant. I I did their menus and a small record label, the CDs. I've done 2 so far.
You go to school for that?
Yeah.
So this is from Heat, Michael Mann, in 95, I think. But so De Niro is a very important criminal. That's a little bit strange what I just said, but in the movie, so it always puzzled me that he got interested in a graphic designer. He gets killed in the end, though. I calculated that the actress at the time of filming was 36. At 36, she designed a menu, a few record sleeves, and it's okay. She's character of fiction, so it's okay to pick on her. But the character, not so good, huh?
Ja, aber eigentlich will ich Grafik machen. Also Eventaufbau, Kisten schleppen halt und so.
Nein, ich will was für Grafik du machen willst.
Ach so. Bis jetzt habe ich halt hauptsächlich nur so kleine Sachen gemacht. Ich habe zum Beispiel ein Prospekt fürs Waldhaus mitgemacht bei der Grotte.
Hat dir das gefallen?
Ich möchte eigentlich schon wieder mehr künstlerisch arbeiten.
Spannend.
I have to recontextualize this movie. I don't even remember the title of this movie because it was so boring that I didn't even watch the end. But everything is boring. I think it was for a purpose because each character is quite boring and it's meant for this crime which happens or this disappearance, vanishing, to be the one extraordinary event of the last 50 years or more in that place. In that very boring place, with a very boring set of characters, the dream of one of them is to become a graphic designer. But after less than a minute of conversation, he actually says, no, I'd rather do something more creative. Artistic, sorry. So this is how graphic designers are depicted in at least 2 movies, one European, one American. And I thought, can I find a positive example? And I found one.
There's even a visual imagination of putting your mock-up. Like a floppy disk. Floppy disk. It's fucking brilliant. It's pure, it's workmanlike, it's poetic. It's expensive. Full colour printing. Cut out gatefold. Well, it's fucking beautiful. I never count the cost of beauty. You should know that.
Talk to you about these sleeves.
Yeah, sure.
Have you costed it? Because I have.
We lose 5 pence on every single one of these records that we sell.
We're going to sell fuck all, so it doesn't matter.
And I thought I told you to leave me while I walked down to the beach. Tell me how.
Blue Monday, this title, with this record sleeve, which if you sold one, they would lose 5 pence on each, went to be #1 in the charts and was the bestseller ever of New Order. So Factory Record actually lost millions of pounds because they were successful. So if the graphic designer is not a boring moron, he is someone who's maybe creative but doesn't know math. I do notice that the few people who did get this joke do not find it funny anymore. Well, I did tell him it was a little bit long, but Yuri Suzuki, who is not related to me, is someone we have worked with, and we have done, for example, this project together, but I cannot talk about this tonight. Well, he was going to come in behind the audience, sit on a chair, and open his notebook, start to speak almost, and I was going to continue in a beautiful segue between screen and reality. This is Spalding Gray, and somehow he invented his own job. He called himself a monologuist. He was on his own, no friends. And what he did was to monologue, usually in a theater. So it's not exactly theater, but it's not exactly a talk. It's a little bit of a lecture sometimes when he goes on and on a bit. But the most well-known of his monologues, let's call them that, since that's how it's best described, is called Swimming to Cambodia. What happened to Spalding Gray is that he was the ambassador in the movie The Killing Fields. He's an actor who didn't act very much because usually people preferred other actors. I'm saying he was the ambassador to shortcut because he was actually the ambassador's aide, not the secretary, but the aide. But as I was going to talk about him a lot later, maybe the ambassador will do. But anyway, the whole thing lasts maybe 10 minutes. If you add each minute, 30 seconds, here and there, Killing Fields, horrible movie about the, I mean the movie is great, but horrible movie about the Cambodian massacre and genocide. And Spalding Gray talks about his physical conditions and how he didn't get the part he wanted, but he got some job as the ambassador, as we established. And so he talks about this. He goes back and forth. He really fights a lot with his girlfriend. And so as you can see, he was much better at telling this story than I am, because he was getting laughs and people were crying sometimes. But what I was interested in about Spalding Gray is how in the whole story there is one movie, then there is a talk, then there is a book, which is the transcription of his text, and then there is a movie made by Jonathan Demme, who went on to direct Silence of the Lambs. I don't know why I always say that, because I'm assuming that everybody knows the Silence of the Lambs, but not Swimming to Cambodia. And so there are different versions of the same story. Here it's exactly the same. It's a hero of ours called Thor Heyerdahl, and this is someone who has won the only ever Oscar for Norway. Only ever. They don't make movies so much, so that's also one of the reasons. He wanted to prove that it was possible for Peruvians to have populated Polynesia. Everybody said, but are you crazy? He said no. Then he took 4 people across the Pacific on a raft made of balsa wood. He survived, and he actually didn't really prove that the Peruvians populated Polynesia, but he proved that it was possible. Anyway, here what we see is top left. The question is, how did they take that picture? They had a little boat. That's the answer. Because they were already thinking of how to document it. Then on the top right is the DVD cover. So they also filmed it. Bottom left is the book. Thor was the chef, not the chef, the boss, but he also wrote the book. And bottom right is the Kon-Tiki Museum, which is, for us, the best museum in the world, and it's in Norway. It's in Oslo, and that's probably the only thing worth visiting Oslo for. Now, on this voyage, because it's all about Thor here, Thor there. Oh, he's so great, isn't he great, this explorer? But he's great, but there were other guys, and we don't know their names, except Eric, because he made his own book. It's a children's book which tells the same story, but in a completely different way. I also love this. It's quite interesting to have this other voice. So I'm gonna jump into a very cheesy metaphor. I hope you will forgive me for this. But let's say that Thor is the commissioner of a project and Eric is the graphic designer. As the graphic designer, he doesn't do much, he just draws on the boat. He's not that important, because it's Thor who thought of the voyage. But in the end, Eric gave his own version of the facts, and it's not better or worse, it just adds another layer. I thought that's not bad. I mean, not as a metaphor, but as a thought. And speaking of drawings, I hope you remember the drawing where there is a little fork which is talking to other forks. And it says, seriously, folks. Yes, you remember. Well, that drawing is something that I had to draw because I remembered it from somewhere, but I didn't know where. And I had given a few talks, with this drawing, thinking, aren't I clever? Isn't this the funniest cartoon not ever made, but ever made by me? Then I realized, no, wait a minute, it's probably a Gary Larson cartoon. So I emailed the agent of Gary Larson, asking for permission to use the original because, I explained the whole thing. I actually wrote an email which was as long as the talk so far. I didn't put the answer because the answer was, thank you very much for your being so admirative of Gary Larson's work, but no way you can use it. So that's why I'm using it. But this is my drawing, okay? I'm using it, but I faked his signature. I made it. Matt Rogers is a musician, and we did this together, but I'm not going to talk about it. All right, now I feel shuffling. We're going to start, don't worry. But first, I would like you to take your phone out of your pocket, or where could it be? Bag, jackets. as fast as you can. If you had turned it off, then could you turn it on? And as most of you, I'm sure, own a smartphone, we probably have all the same time, which is 8:32. Amazing. So it is now 8:32, but by the time I finish the sentence, it might be 8:33. So what we're gonna do is set the alarm to go off in exactly 30 minutes, which leads us to 9:02. Now, I don't want to assume anything, but sometimes in this example of a stressful situation, I know it's only me being stressed here, one confuses AM and PM, so make sure that you go into PM. 9:02, 9 o'clock, 21 hours, 02 minutes. I know that some of you are just pretending to doing it. I know it. But I would like the volume to the max. And I have to be honest, it is for your own sake, because I can talk for hours. I would like you to bring them to the front here, and I show how you can do this by doing it myself. Now, do not worry, I have a photographic memory, so I can remember a face and link it to a phone of up to 300 people. I hope we're not more than this, but I don't think so. Now, you probably think that what I'm saying is metaphorical, but I really would like you to bring them. So, while the best of you do so, I would like to tell you a little anecdote about, and it's going to sound a little bit racist, but don't worry, it's not racist. When I have done this in France, the ratio of number and mobile phones was extremely low. And I can say this because I am French. The French don't trust each other. However, when I did this in Oslo, even though everything else in Oslo was very boring, I've had an incredible rate of 99% of the phones ratio head to phone. I'm not going to count, but this is quite good. I think it's because we're quite high and that you're closer to the Scandinavians than to the French. And I repeat, I'm French, so I am allowed to say things like this about the French, right? So I really have been looking at who left what where, and I know that there is always someone who leaves it to the extreme, so that they know. But it's an old iPhone, this one. Well, I think we should start actually, because now the 30 minutes have already started. So, can you imagine if you go to a museum that the little label telling you of the title and the artist name and the date and the medium is a person? You don't have to answer. I used to say that this introduction is the one I prefer, and one day someone who made another one was in the room, so I do not do this mistake anymore. This is the record sleeve we made for Blood Music, who is not a heavy metal band, but just the stage name of this gentleman here. But we're not going to talk about this. Well, as I said before, if we don't document something, it seems that it does not exist. I don't know.
Eurovision. 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 Eurovision.
Now I realize that usually I have to explain who these people are, but here I might not have to. Do you know who they are? Telex, yes. They are a Belgian band, and I am not joking when I say that they are Belgian. They are from Belgium. And I am not joking when I say that they are probably as important as Kraftwerk, but it's just that people don't know it. This is not staged, or it's staged by them. They entered the competition, represented Belgium, sang a song called Eurovision at the Eurovision, and took a photo of the audience. I don't know if anything can be any better in life than this.
Yes, and the reason we're doing this is we have the Kitsuné Midnight signed here, and we'd like to make the next record cover with your participation. So you can tell the moment that you're on the record cover. Okay, so
at a conference in Singapore, 3,000 people came not to see us, but to see other more important people. However, we were talking as well. So we knew that it was forbidden for them to take any pictures because of copyright reasons. But there was a flaw, in the sense that for this, we just inversed something. It made 4 happy people. It was us seeing this. So somehow the frustration could be felt. It was great for us. In fact, all the woo, it's us. Then we were again invited in a different design conference where really big designers were talking. So again, there were lots of people. So we thought of turning the same idea by having. I hope the diagram is easy to understand, but I'm just going to say it so it goes faster. Okay. People take pictures, And there is a camera recording them taking the pictures, but at the same time there is a live feed showing that they are taking the pictures. Now, even though in theory it works, my documentation sucks. Because it's yet another camera filming the whole thing. What an idiot. Anyway, we forgot about this because it was becoming complicated and we were really failing at recording things like this. So we thought, hey, Telex 1980, we do the same thing, and we will not show the Telex clip. One of us had this idea of that maybe someone could hold the newspaper so that it would say where it is, what day. It's a bit strange because it looks like a hostage situation, which you have to convene a talk can be. This is in Holland. Again, a little bit of a hostage situation, but this time we asked the people on the right to look at something on the left which doesn't exist. This is a strange one because it just says London, UK. I have absolutely no idea what college it was. But what happened here is that usually when we asked, oh, do you have any questions? And nobody has any question. So we asked people to pretend that they had questions. Okay. This is another college in France. It becomes a bit ridiculous because you would think, do they really have that many questions? Even worse. This is okay. The fact that they are asking questions is staged, but they really have their talks outside. This is Los Angeles. And they have it outside with a geodesic dome even. That's really quite, in terms of cool education, I think you cannot go cooler. Okay, it's not true. We staged it. Because you can't really have a projection outside. It would be really too faint. But I think this was one of the best ones, because as we were moving the chairs, some people were coming to us and saying, yeah, wow, it's great because it's so warm outside, you know, we didn't want to be in the room for the whole day. I said, yeah, high five. It was really quite, we felt empowered by how people were reacting really positively. The only problem is that after we took the picture, we said, well, now I think we have to go back for the rest of the lecture. What a letdown. This is, I don't have much to say about this one, except that I think people look so happy and very beautiful. This goes back in time because I just wanted to show you one guy there. There's a guy just up here. He's there is always one. Well, minimum. And he's the guy who says, better be good. I was really stressed for the whole duration, which was an hour and a half, and I could not look at him. And he stayed like this for the whole thing. I really wanted to punch him in the face. And at the same time, I wanted to ask him, so what did you think? You know, did you learn anything? Or do you think it's too pretentious? Is it funny? Is it not funny? Is it meant to be funny? But I don't know who he is. This is the Revenge. 4 years later, we went there. He was same lecture theater, a bit more people. He wasn't there anymore. So what I learned from the fact that there is always someone who's very scary in the audience and makes me feel that this is not where I should be, and who am I anyway to tell you anything that you are supposedly not knowing and that I know. A strange sentence. So I now, from that moment, I had always chosen one person in the crowd, a smiley face, thinking, oh my God, this person must be in love with me because he or she is smiling. So I will focus on this person and then continue my talk. In this talk, it doesn't appear to be very obvious, but it was her, Alice. And she was always smiling, you know, nodding, really very engaged with what I was saying. So at the end, I didn't know anybody. I hardly knew the people who invited us. So I went to her and said, hey, okay, so did you enjoy it? She said, yeah. No, really. So what did you prefer? And she said, well, I'm really sorry, but when you talk of Spalding Gray, you remember, the monologuist, then I remembered that I had met him and how a wonderful man he was, how funny and witty. So I remembered all his talks which I saw in New York, and therefore I didn't listen to the rest of what you said. This is true. Then they are slightly, oh, it looks sharper here, but okay. So still, it was the good old trick of, guys, do you have any questions? Here, the person who had invited us was in the toilet when we took a picture. So I said, well, don't worry. We'll just, we can Photoshop it. The only thing is that as graphic designers, we're very bad at Photoshopping and things like this. So we thought it's better to juxtapose and then tell you how it is. She was in the toilet, probably just number one. And she didn't miss that much. But we have tried things with the audience because, you know, audience participation is a little bit, you know, if I would now ask someone to say something, it's bullying, almost. So I will not do this. But we tried something here in Paris. We put the first row on, well, we didn't know that it would be so elevated. So we put the chairs, so these poor people were actually sitting on the second row like you, like you avoided the first row. And I said, no, it's, you have to come, and I already had the microphone, and somehow this gives you the power. And they said, yeah, all right. I have to say, this poor girl there, I could see that from the middle, she actually didn't understand English. So she had to stay an hour and a half listening to people talking about stuff in English. Actually, a lot of people said we didn't understand anything. Some people said we couldn't even see you. But I mean, at this point, I really have to say that there is someone who's very important for, I guess, all of us in general. But to us, this man over there with a beard and this one performance, audience performance mirror, is the mother, if I may say so, the mother of the performance without really preparing so much. Okay, you need a huge mirror, but apart from that, what Dan Graham did in the 70s, I don't want to be talking about him too much, actually. He's a great guy. But there's a new version here by two British artists. They got a stand-up comedian to do pretty much what he did, but with a very mean stand-up twist. I saw the video. I'm really happy I wasn't there. But so we continue this because I was looking for the perfect documentation. No, I'm joking. But the first time we went to New York, first time we crossed America, the only time, we started in New York, and I said, well, okay, there are too many hands, too many questions, it's fake, what about some people who have real questions? Then, yeah, these two people had really real questions, and this guy said, what if I pretend I leave so that you have quite a good crowd, but at the same time someone doesn't like it, so it's more realistic. Oh, okay. Right. That's a good idea. Then I showed this image, and then in Chicago someone said, hey, let's do the same one. All right. So we have that person here and that person there with, I don't think they had questions this time, but you know, they knew where they were, they're doppelgangers from New York. This guy doesn't really like the talk, so he's leaving. Then in Minneapolis, the strange thing is that the talk was at 12 o'clock on Sunday. I thought, but Minneapolis is this really left-wing, liberal town, students, and so I thought, but wouldn't all the students be really drunk on a Saturday night and not come on Sunday at 11 o'clock? And the teacher there said, no, they're really serious. Anyway, we still managed to recreate the classic 2 questions, one guy doesn't like it. So this is towards the end of our trip. It was in Los Angeles. There were very, very nice people, but God, this room is really bad. This is the final one. In San Francisco, yeah, guy leaving, doesn't like it, one question there, one question there. This was new. Then not much for a while, and this is so far my favorite because we were in Nice, where we met really interesting people, and the director let us use the condemned theater, which nobody could use because when it was raining, the water would come up and it was all dangerous, and half of the chairs are actually not screwed to the... So, you know, everybody is a bit on precarious situation here. So I would like to have the lights, and I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I'm going to take a photo which will be here in the next talk. I don't have a camera. I think someone took my phone. Oh. I think now we can, because I've been talking a lot, so I'm sure you've had time to come up with a question. So if you do have a question, raise your hand. If you have a comment, if you were going to tweet, if you are going to drink tonight, if you're a bit sleepy, well, good enough, that's good enough. Yeah, okay, let's go for a bit sleepy. Then I would like to ask you to not to smile too much, because I've been told that, yeah, well, they don't seem to be learning so much in your talks because they all smile like idiots. So maybe you can really try to focus on something which has been puzzling you since I said it, as if I had been using very complicated words. So, so really focus, 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 focus. Very good, very, very good. So I have a photographic memory, I told you, so I know the people who do have questions, I will ask them later. I knew. Maybe we can have the lights off again. I don't know if this works. Well, this is actually one of the classic ringtones, which I think some of you use. You know, it's I completely understand that you don't necessarily have to buy new ones. There is quite a long list of ringtones that you can use from your devices already. You know, everything is already quite expensive, so. This image is meant to be illustrating the idea of the spirit of the staircase. What does it mean? It's actually coming from French, l'esprit de l'escalier, and according to Wikipedia, but also normal dictionaries, the spirit of the staircase is the moment when this will end. I will have asked you, do you have any questions? Are you sure nobody has any questions? And as you go downstairs, yeah, I don't know why stairs, but it comes to you, yes, you have a question, but it's too late. So this is why I wanted to fuck you. I'm very sorry, I never do that very silly and easy joke. So this might sound quite pretentious because, to be fair, we haven't really been asked this question very often. But our name means clumsy. And it's sometimes pronounced Åbäke, 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 Åbäke. I'm not Swedish, but it's a Swedish word. It's pronounced Åbäke. But you can pronounce it however you want, really. Yes. This, however, is very often the case. So we have commissioned an artist who also happens to be a photographer to take a portrait of us. This is our press pictures. Kasja, you recognize me, Patrik, Benjamin. Yes. In fact, I will say more than yes. 1,176 projects since we started in summer 2000. The €0 means that 206 projects out of those have not been paid in euros or any currency whatsoever in terms of monies. But out of those 206, 153 have had some kind of bartering. So I give you a monkey, you give me a pig, things like this. And 53, it was for absolutely nothing. There was no gain. We just wanted to do it. But it turned out that one person in this charity was working for another company, which gave us a job, which made us more than 30,000 euros. Well, we had to work for it, but you know. I think I need to, because I see some of you here are students, right? But this is not just for students. In our research, which I said encompasses almost 25 years of altogether, one of the questions that comes back often is this one. And luckily, we have found the answer. So, well, the key is that G stands for good, A for art, B for bad, and D for design. So, yes, I think it's really worth taking a picture because